Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about why talking less makes avoidance commit further. Now, I'm not saying like talking less with your partner. I'm actually talking about talking less about specific heavy topics. And I do want to, before we get into this, at least establish this is not for every single case. It's just if you feel like maybe your partner is pulling away or you guys are having very frequent conflicts, some of these things can actually help to navigate those conflicts so that it's not occurring so much more frequently. And by reducing negativity within the relationship dynamic, avoidants are just much more comfortable committing. And some of these things are things that I see in couples therapy. Actually, all of them are, but some of them are just more particular for long-term relationships, so it might not apply to everybody. But I will say that probably even in short-term relationships, at least one of these things may apply to your situation, whether you realize it or not. And I'm not saying you have to continuously adjust and tiptoe around avoidance. It's just something to keep in mind that by adjusting these things a little bit, it can help. Some of these things will be a little frustrating and difficult to hear because it really does feel like everything is accommodating to them. And if you feel like you're continuously accommodating, there needs to be a conversation because that's not fair or healthy. So I'm not telling you to fully accommodate. That's not what I'm saying. I've made videos on this channel where I think boundaries need to be set, and I'm going to make more because I think a lot of you guys struggle with boundaries, and that's okay. But this video is still helpful using them both in conjunction. And the first one is stress about work-related issues, particularly about your work. Okay, such as how bad your day was, if this is a frequent occurrence. And it doesn't have to be work related, maybe it's school related, something external, but more particularly performance based of that sort. And the reason why this can be very frustrating is because a lot of times avoidants feel out of control about this. They feel like there's nothing they can do to fix it. And so it just feels like constantly hearing negative stuff about you, and they feel helpless to that. That's the first emotion that they feel, helpless. And then on top of that, as you continuously bring this up, sometimes what can happen is they almost feel like you're not finding a way to resolve the emotion. And so you're almost like to them, to an extreme version of it, they might feel like it's a sign that you're not able to cope with your own stressors and emotions. And a lot of avoidants that feel like this, it's more common with dismissive avoidance, but a lot of times it's because when they have work-related issues, they don't really like to talk about it. But it needs to be met in the middle. It can be helpful if you talk about it less, but it also can be helpful if they talk about it a little bit more on their side so that you can offer them solutions and comfort them so that they feel more comfortable understanding how that feels and being more comfortable offloading their emotions. So it does need to work both ways, as with pretty much most things in relationships. The next one is stress about, I think, issues or like certain social dynamics with friends, parents, etc. If this is a normal occurrence, every now and again is perfectly acceptable for avoidants to feel comfortable committing. It's more like something that is continuously occurring or at least somewhat common. So let's say your mother is really a frustrating individual. I have one friend who her relationship with her mom is not that great, but often sometimes it's like 70% of our conversations is her just talking about her mom because she still lives at home. And I get that. I don't live at home. I have my own, I haven't lived with my parents for a long time. I haven't lived with my mom in like a long time. But so I get that. And I'm always here to listen. But sometimes what happens is I almost feel like it's hard for me to even focus on the conversation because I don't know what else to say. It's the same story in very different versions. And I want to be there for her. But at the same time, it's like, what's the solution, right? I get that you're saving money, and I know it's so hard, especially nowadays, to buy a house. So I'm not, and I'm privileged, so I do understand that angle. However, it's also, how do you manage like setting boundaries with your mom? How do you manage emotional boundaries, things like that? And I think about those things even if I've been friends with her since like undergrad, like so long, right? I've known her actually before undergrad, I think. Yeah. Actually, I've known her for like a long time. And still, this is something that comes up. And in my mind, I'm thinking, what is going to be done? And I know her childhood very well. Like I get it. But it's kind of similar in relationships. If there's a continuous occurrence, sometimes the question is, what are you doing about it? Or is it just something that you're emotionally dysregulated about? And I'm not saying that that's what it is necessarily, but avoidants feel like that. And I want you guys to know that so you can at least be aware. The next one is emotional and physical pain within reason, because you are absolutely allowed to have this conversation and you should. But it's typically without a solution. And I'm going to give an example. Let's just say you have a continuous ear pain or something, right? I'm not a medical doctor, so I truly have no idea if that's a serious thing or not, because I've never had ear pain. But let's just say you have it, and let's just say it's not so serious, but it's like continuous, something of that sort. And you bring it up every day it's occurring. The avoidant individual may think, okay, why are you, like, maybe you should go to the doctor. And let's say after that conversation, you refuse to go to the doctor and you'd rather just continuously talk about it. Yes, you want to vent. You want to have some comfort. You want to have some reassurance. That's normal. But at some point, it's almost like what should be said, especially if you're refusing to go to the doctor. They might almost find it like an avenue where you're trying to complain for no reason. And I'm not saying that you're doing that. And a sub point to this, let's say you have physical pain and you want them to be there for you for whatever reason, or you're sick. Maybe you're like indirectly nudging them to do that or be there for them and they have no clue, or it's almost like frustrating because they kind of have an idea, but they also don't and you're not saying it. I know people who are anxiously attached do that a lot. And I don't think it's your fault. I think a lot of you guys are afraid to say something directly, or you're like testing the other person, but it can be really frustrating. That one in particular, I have memories of something very similar where, like, let's say someone's in like physical pain, emotional pain, or they're sick and they want me to do something about it, which is fine. It's understandable, but it's like they're nudging instead of directly saying it. And it's very confusing for somebody who doesn't do that to know what you want. And then once they figure out, okay, I think I'm being tested, it's even more, and I know you're not going to like this, but I just want to be honest with you. It's like you're less motivated to want to help them because you feel like you're being tested, and you almost feel like it's unfair because it's like so much legwork to do a favor for somebody, right? Like you're making the favor even more difficult and more unwilling. Like if you're asking somebody to do a favor, but it's like between a maze of a labyrinth of different behaviors, they're less likely to want to do it. Say that, I'm feeling sick. Do you want to, like, I would really appreciate if you drop some soup over to my house. Whatever it is, that's much more understandable or easier for an avoidant than if you're like indirectly saying it and like navigating through. I understand it's like communication is difficult. We're all like lifelong learners. I understand that. The next one is engaging in frequent gossip. Probably a lot of you guys know this. This is more common with male avoidants, but both dismissive and fearful avoidants, male and female, don't really engage in a lot of gossip, I've noticed. And it's just an uncomfortable and frustrating dynamic. A lot of people don't understand gossip. This is something that like I was actually like made fun of a lot for not understanding. Not made fun of, but like almost like teased. Like a lot of my friends are like, gossip just goes right over her head. Like she has no idea. She has no interest in this stuff. Like I remember complaining to my mom about this because I was so confused about what was happening. Like I think it was in high school or maybe it was like undergrad. Some of my friends were like gossiping or talking about another person's luggage, like literally luggage. I'm not exaggerating, like somebody's luggage. And they were talking about it for like 30 minutes. And I was so confused. Like, why are we talking about someone else's luggage? They're like, oh, that luggage looks like ABC, looks like this, looks like that, looks like it's from here. Like, girl, I buy my luggage from like Amazon. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know anything about luggage. Like, is still to this day, like, are there like rules about luggage? Like I get like you want to make your luggage look like cute. Like I like clothes. I like certain things. I get that. And I do like certain things looking nice, but I don't think about it like in so much detail. Cause like at the end of the day, if I'm on a flight, which I do fly somewhat often, I want to be comfortable. Like I don't care what I look like. I want to be comfortable. And I want to try and see if I can get some rest. And I am never able to get rest on flights. Or I can, but it's really hard. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about my luggage. So that is like, it was so confusing for me. And I actually was like upset. And that's what I was like telling my mom after that conversation. She's like, oh, it's normal. People talk about luggage. This is a normal conversation. And I was like, okay, I guess it's normal, but I was so confused. And the next one is bring up long-standing issues without breaks in between. You should be able to bring up long-standing issues, but You don't want it to be frequently where it's like almost back to back. Give it some break in between. That's really all. And so that's what I mean by talking less about these things. You can still talk about them. You just don't want it to be such a frequent occurrence. So let's go ahead and summarize and we'll wrap it up. Stress about work-related issues, issues with friends, emotional pain and physical pain, within reason. You still want to bring these things up, engaging in too frequent gossip, or bring up long-standing issues without pauses in between. I hope this video is helpful for somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.